Some solutions included building some spreadsheets. Other included like building out full-fledged apps. This came from someone who had like a zero business background. You'd call the bot, and the bot is trained on the specific questions. And from that interview, I'm able to generate content. The writer's block doesn't exist anymore. Rather than loading an AI with a bunch of instructions, really breaking it down into smaller steps. An agent that's just focused on finding your brand voice. I've loaded $10. It's lasted me since October.
Pranav, calling from Boston, super excited to talk to you. I'm going to learn some AI today. I'm stoked for it. You are a chemical engineer by trade who has now transitioned into AI automation, which is freaking awesome. What LLMs do you use and what do you currently use them for?
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me here. And it's a pleasure to be here and to spend this next few minutes with you. I'm a firm believer in that you should be having a mixture of LLMs for different use cases. So for my case, I find just the OpenAI interface is really, really intuitive to me. So I do a lot of my ideation and everything with ChatGPT, mainly with the 4.0 model. It gets the job done for me. If I know something requires a little bit more understanding, I'll go to the reasoning models as well. But for the most part, for all the execution, whether that's expand on this or do XYZ, focusing more on execution and not really much on generation, but just do the actual thing, I'll use ChatGPT. For anything related to research, I like Perplexity. I think it's a very powerful tool. Grok did come out with the ability for deep research. I just haven't had a chance to really play around with it yet. But once I get my hands dirty with it, I'll definitely keep you posted on how that goes. And I just love Claude.
Before you go to Claude, tell me more about Perplexity. So what are you using Perplexity for exactly? Deep research?
Perplexity is it's the way I like to think of it. It's kind of like your LLM that's supercharged with search. So it's basically crawling the entire web in such a way and giving the LLM capabilities to summarize what it's seeing and giving you that experience that in addition for searching something, you're getting something actionable without having to click into every link, like what you have with Google, right? Even with SGE.
So Perplexity is real time.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Perplexity is real time, and it has. I think it's just an excellent tool. I don't know if you're aware, but they're going to be coming out with their own browser soon. So really excited about that to see what that looks like. So it's gonna be a whole new different world out there. I would say in terms of models, always start with one and just play around with it. See what the feeling is like. For me, I got my hands dirty with ChatGPT because it was just mass market. That's what you heard all the times.
Yeah.
And slowly, as I got into space, more and more models came my way. There's a whole slew of open source models that you can run. There's Mistral, there's Falcon, there's Llama. These are all things that just came my way as I became in the space. But that shouldn't stop you from at least getting started.
OpenAI has, like you said, has a really good user interface. It's pretty intuitive, right? Like the chat box, the way it stores history for your conversations is nice. So you use ChatGPT for sort of general ideation. You'll use Perplexity for research. And then I think you said you like Claude a lot. What do you use Claude for?
So I use Claude to actually do a lot of the content generation. So actual generation.
Really?
So think of things things that require a little bit of creativity. So for example, the way I like to distinguish this is execution is you give it a bunch of rules and it'll do those rules. For example, let's say one use case I'm fascinated about with AI is taking unstructured data and structuring it. So for example, taking a picture, telling me what it is in a format that I can record in a database rather than just as a text. So for those use cases, I've seen OpenAI is really, really good getting those structured outputs. ChatGPT, OpenAI. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying Claude is good for that. So Claude's not good for that.
No, Claude, but I would say Claude is really good when it comes to creative side. So let's say you're asking it to generate content for someone to read. I don't know. I don't know how it's programmed. Maybe if I read the documentation, it'll give the picture become clear. But I'm just so much more fascinated, not fascinated, it's not the right word, but I'm more moved by the text I get from Claude versus what I get from ChatGPT. ChatGPT seems very dry with its output, whereas Claude, there just seems to be a little bit more character. maybe this is a very subjective feeling. Maybe others feel differently, but this is what I've experienced.
I do wonder because I hear people say like, this model has much more character than ChatGPT. I wonder if people are just, they're just used, who let the dogs out? That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
know. And we are
He's
here,
happy.
here us talking about AI and got
He's,
crazy.
he's like, I'm ready for it, dude. I started using yesterday and today, actually, Claude for helping me code. I'm trying to take my transcripts for my podcasts and put them into a digestible format so I can actually upload them to LLMs. So they're like cleaning the texts, they're removing the timestamps, they're organizing the data. And I've never done any of this stuff before. And I was like, here's the Python script, go run it in Google Colab. And I found that Claude is actually better at helping me create the script than ChatGPT was to clean the data. And that was interesting. I'd never done that before.
It's kind of like iPhone versus Android, right? They've both achieved the same purpose. Like they both make calls. They both you can text. Maybe with Android to iPhone, you have the green thing that people will rag you about. If you look at the total experience, it's more or less the same. But people gravitate to other based on experience. Like you talk to an Android user, they love the customizability aspect of their phone. They're not locked to a certain configuration. They're not locked to a certain like a certain ecosystem like Apple does. But like Apple just gives that premium experience no matter what. Even if you get sucked into their ecosystem, it's you have to give props to them for giving that premium experience and creating that system that if you're not an Apple user, you don't really belong. Like I don't know if there's an LLM equivalent, but it's kind of like that. If you find the whole point is like, are you being served? Right? Like if you're being served to your capacity, like there's something that's working there.
Okay, so tell me, you were a chemical engineer. You've now gone and created and started your own AI automation agency. When did you start your agency?
So after I stopped working, I took a little bit of a break, and I would say I started seriously pursuing this in August, where I put up my profile out on Upwork, started networking with some people, and got some clients through the door pretty easily. Some solutions included building some spreadsheets like I did in my previous job. Other included like building out full-fledged apps, not necessarily AI apps, but just apps in general. And what that's transitioned to is more or less it's giving me a whole arsenal of tools available to just build anything like I want. So it's giving me exposure to like no code development. There's a tool called Bubble that is very powerful when it comes to building out web apps. There's a tool called Flutterflow, which is really powerful to build mobile apps. And now you have a whole slew of like text to prompt builders that you can type and it'll output
Yeah.
like a web app for you. At the same time, it gave me a whole exposure to the world of Zapier, to the world of Make, and like how do we create those workflows to, connect the dots to achieve a certain purpose. This came from someone who had like a zero business background, but then just learning these softwares, understand what drives business value, what drives, how do we move things forward. It really is an eye opener to that more than anything else. Like the money is nice on the side, but like having this knowledge and seeing it firsthand, just how these tools drive value has been truly exciting.
Walk me through, how are you using AI in your business today? Is it a revenue generator, or is it a cost saver, or is it a efficiency accelerant? Like, how are you using it?
So I would say for the bulk of my clients, it's more or less a time saver. And it really boils down to a few categories. So one is increased capacity. So they're able to take on a higher workload without having to raise or without having to bring on more workers or more labor. Like that expectation is risen for how much output a single person can do. That's one. Another one is about streamlining operations. Like I think before the age of AI, many people were kind of loose with their operations. But the minute like the AI came out, more or less they realized that in order for AI to be beneficial, they really had to get their operations dialed in. So, building out those SOPs, building out, those knowledge banks such that they can get outputs that are repeatable and then reverse engineer it such that they can install AI at key touch points to really smoothen out any points of friction. And thirdly, I think it's just the amplifier in any way. Like if you look at top line side of things, like the way you can use, AI enrichment to increase the likelihood of you landing in an inbox, or like you can use it to do for market research, really expanding on customer pain points and saving on the bottom line, just, automating workflows that are very tedious, automating things that you should be doing, but just don't because you don't have enough hours in the day. So I've seen the benefits like very close up, which has been really exciting for me.
From your perspective, your framework is, hey, this is either going to give you more capacity or it's going to be an accelerant on what you're already doing. Tell me about, I guess, what's something you use on a daily basis, or what's something that can you show me anything? Is there anything that you have like?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things I've built and I'm still actively building out is it's basically like an interview bot where like you connect with the voice AI, and from that conversation you're able to generate content. So
What do you mean? Like I would just call the bot?
yeah, you would call the bot, and the bot is trained on the specific questions that you interview. Like it gives you an interview, and from that interview, I'm able to generate content that I could, potentially use in a post.
Because when you say content, you're talking about marketing copy, or are you talking about like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter posts?
Primarily building this for like Twitter and LinkedIn, mainly just to get that top of funnel content. And it's still pretty unrefined, but it's just like just building this out has been really cool. One thing I've been really fascinated by has been, voice agents, because there's so many times where I really want someone around, forget like customer service, but just the opportunity to really talk with somebody. And then they're not available. Like it's like 3 a.m. They're not around. Like if I want content done and like I don't have anything for the week, like I don't want to be sitting down. I just want to like, hit record, just walk around the block and just have this conversation. And after I'm done, then I have, a piece of content. So we'll just do a quick demo of this.
Yeah, I'd love
So
to see it.
yeah, so basically like once I have, let me pull up a transcript. So this is the back end of this. This is an app called Bubble. Like I like to use this for like visual interfaces,
Okay, let me ask you this question.
but
All right. So basically what you're doing is you're taking the audio is then getting converted into a transcript, and then you are taking that transcript, right, and repurposing it, etc. So I get
yeah,
that piece. Why are you using Bubble? So like, why not something like Replit or Cursor or Lovable? Is it Lovable? What's that one?
yeah, lovable. Yeah. And
Yeah, Lovable.
this is a really good question. This is a really good question, Nick. It's mainly because it's something I'm comfortable with at the
Oh, okay.
moment.
Okay.
Like, for me, like I before all these tools came out, I was already developing on Bubble. So I understood how to piece things together. And like a lot of these tools like Lovable, I just feel at the moment it's meant to make coders' life easier. Like someone who like actively codes. Like though I know how to read code, I'm not good at writing it. And like if someone were to go in and if I were to outsource that portion of it, like I feel like I'd be more or less lost. Whereas this case, like with Bubble, it's like a drag and drop interface. It's like
Exactly.
building with Wix, where you have some logic in the back end too. So these are like some of the logic I have here.
Okay.
Where like, I make the call I use make in this case for like handling the transcript. But then like all the interactions are also taking, like if I have a transcript, like it hides it, then I can go to my content
Have you
pieces.
heard of a software called Flowwise?
Yes. So Flowwise is actually, it's more for like developing AI apps
Okay.
specifically. Oh, I don't think I'm logged in. Just 1 second.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where Flowwise fits in. It's like, okay, I get N8N, Zapier,
Hmm.
Make. Okay, I get what those do. I get what Replit, Cursor, Lovable do. I get what Bubble does, so to speak. But Flowwise, I'm like, what does Flowwise do? I don't quite understand where that fits
So
into.
Flowwise is more very similar to N8N, I would say, where it's like you can build out workflows, but the difference between Flowwise and N8N comes down to kind of the language. So Flowwise is built on top of a framework called LangChain, where it's like that's the underlying framework it uses. Whereas N8N, I'm not sure what it's built off of, and it's mainly geared for N8N is really much like I think it's like Zapier and Make on steroids. Whereas
Exactly.
Flowwise is like a different category altogether, I would say, mainly geared towards more complex AI apps. Like with Flowwise, you were able to do very complex like queries to like graphs, and where you can talk with like unstructured data, which I haven't seen that with N8N yet.
Okay.
I would say for the most use cases, N8N is much more, it has a lower barrier to entry than Flowwise.
All right. So you've got some transcripts up here. So after you do the voice to text, it's generated a transcript. Where does that go?
So basically what I'm able to do is like in the back end, I've set up a make scenario that takes this transcript and just breaks it down into different, based on the questions it asks. So there's like a list of questions
Are
the
you able to
bot
show me?
asks.
Can I see it?
Yeah. So it's still a work in progress, and like it might leak some things out, but
Okay. Okay. That's fine.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's yeah, yeah. So it's basically what it does. It scans each question, the answer, and just takes that portion of the transcript. So you have different AI modules programmed for that use case, where they'll just look at this question, give me the answer. So question 1, question 2,
So the
question 3.
audio is specific questions
Mhm.
that then correspond with the make automation.
Mhm. So basically what the flow is that I wish maybe I can make this a little more visual for you.
Yeah. I'm also just trying to give people an idea of like, okay, how would I even map this? Right.
Yeah, so basically the flow is, I think this is a very good idea. We can do this is you start with, like, you start the interview. And once you finish the interview, you have the option to send that transcript to the bot, or you can delete the transcript. Sometimes like what we just did, like
Yeah.
we started, you're not able to hear the audio. You want to give that option to the user. So let's say I'm just giving the use case, like we're just going to keep continuing. So you start the interview, after the post-interview transcript is generated.
And the interview is specific questions. It's not just me talking ad
No, no,
hoc
no.
off
It's
the top
like
of my head.
yeah. So the bot is like, it has the questions loaded into it that it needs to ask, that are mainly geared towards like, it's geared towards like your expertise. It's geared towards what's going on in your business currently. And like it asks questions based on that, so it can generate, so that you can get those ideas unstructured into the transcript. And from that transcript, it generates the content. So once the interview transcript is generated, it gets sent to like a make automation to sort the questions. So once each question is sorted, you get 3 varieties. So you can get like a piece on like thought leadership, a piece, I think it's like authority. So like, actually, sorry, on like a story out of it. And third one is just I think it's like a how-to guide. It's pretty new. I'm still figuring
No,
it out
no, this is,
myself what I did
don't worry. Like, this
what
is
I did
amazing.
exactly. But
Like, just thinking through the flow of it, I think is important.
yeah, so basically what happens is you have this interview with the bot. And once that interview is finished, you have this transcript that has like a whole slew of text. And then you sent it to AI to sort the text. And from the text for each question, you get three vehicles to inspire change, in your audience. And like right now it's pretty generic, but this could be huge where like if you turn this into like a full-fledged, app where you can load, this is the ICP I'm looking to target. Give me,
Well,
give me.
there's a lot of people who would listen to this and be like, well, I'm not going to post content. I'm kind of lame.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it from, the other end of the spectrum, which is what would you use interviews for to then generate stories? Well, I
Yeah.
could be an executive at a company and I just am recording our weekly updates, right? Or, hey, I want to record stories that my mom tells about her childhood, or I want to record stories about myself for my kids. You can still do this. You can get them prompted, sent to you. You're on a walk. You say it into your AirPods. AI then takes it and makes it prettier, pretties it up. Hopefully, it's not lying about anything. But I think there's a ton of potential use cases in just this flow that you're talking about.
Yeah, and like the way I like to think of this is, really expanding, you're augmenting your capability. Like, sure, like you can, sit down and answer a bunch of questions and send it to an AI to really expand. But what you're given here is like a structure to work with, such that all you do is press interview, you press stop, and in the back end, so much goes on. Like this whole flow should be completed within like 6 or 7 minutes. How is that
Wow.
versus an hour of like sitting down and like ideating everything? After this call, I'll shoot you a little video with how this works. I think
Yeah, that would
that'll
be,
be a more descriptive. I think with the recording, what's going on right now is like it doesn't pick up system sound,
mm,
so that's why you're
yeah,
not
no
able to
worries.
hear the bot. But I think, yeah, but this is just a primer into the capabilities what you're here. And if I just go to the screen real quick, these are some of the
All right, now's the part of the show where I feel the most uncomfortable, but my therapist says I need to face my fears. So here we are. I've started a newsletter and I want you to subscribe. And what you're going to get every single week are the aggregated conversations from that week that I have on this podcast with an overview of what their business actually looks like. I'm also going to throw in a review of 1 or 2 businesses that are listed for sale. I'll give you my opinion on whether or not the EBITDA multiple is good, or there's customer concentration, or there's red flags or green flags. And then lastly, I'm going to give you one piece of actionable advice every single week on how to buy your first business. So click the link below, subscribe to my newsletter, and let's get back into the show.
this is some of the content I got from this transcript, where it's like this is using ChatGPT because it's just mainly for a use case standpoint, just to see how it would work, and not like for actual
Do you know,
actual production.
how I knew it was
But
ChatGPT?
like these, how
The emoji.
yeah,
Dude, ChatGPT
yeah,
is obsessed with
exactly.
emojis, man. I don't know what it is.
I don't know either. Like I have to make sure like every prompt, like please don't output emojis. Please don't output emojis.
I know, dude. That's so funny. Okay, so this is a story basically from the
Yeah.
transcript. It's
So
turned it into a story.
mhm. And like again, like you can play around with the prompting to improve the formatting, but again, this is also
Now,
ChatGPT for like
is your agency specifically focused on creating content, or is this just one of the use cases that you've created at your agency and you're doing a lot of other things?
this is mainly just an internal thing I wanted to test out. Just mainly to play around with voice agents and just test the capability. But I would say like one of the key points like to focus on is content, because the barrier to entry is just now so low. Like with all these tools, you can forget like AI generated content, but you can make AI content that's actually good, and like that's actually moving people like down the funnel if you
Right.
prompt it right. Like I was just reading something about like cold to hot traffic, just as I'm learning marketing, and how much it makes sense to utilize what you're seeing in these readings and apply it to your content. Like what does it mean to make content to move people from cold to warmer audience? What does it mean to nurture? What does like a nurture post look like all these like these it's just so easy to get 80% there, where the remaining 20% is just comes down to understanding your customers.
For somebody like me, I have 130-ish podcasts, a ton of information there. Obviously, I have a ton of posts that I've created. Would I use a tool like this to create content, or like what would I do with all that content that I'm sitting on?
Absolutely. So the way I would think of it, Nick, is like you have all this content. So now from this content, you need to really figure out what are things that would appeal to my ICP. Like, if I'm looking, what is the goal I want to use? For example, someone that's cold and doesn't know what your podcast is about, what your business is about. You really need to say like, okay, like they have a problem. They don't even know they might have it, but what is something to at least catch their attention? So just building out a content around like, that side of things based on what you already have. And then same thing where what's something that, okay, they know who I am. They just need to buy me. They need more content too, such that they buy into me a little more. What would that look like? And just
Interesting.
building out this bank of content that you could work with. Like you shouldn't have a situation anymore where like, I don't have anything to write about. Writer's block doesn't exist anymore.
I haven't figured out how to do it right, man. It's hard. It's hard because you want to feel
Yeah.
authentic. You don't want to have a bunch of emojis in there. You want it to sound like your voice. I think the thing I haven't quite figured out is the context window is only so broad. So how do I get all of my content in there and then also prompt it to write the things that I want it to write in the voice that I want it to write, it feels like I need to almost train a model at this point, as opposed to just use the context window that's available to me.
That's where it becomes really important to like kind of break it into micro steps. Like one of the things I've noticed just building this out is rather than loading an AI with a bunch of instructions, really breaking it down into smaller steps, such that you have an agent that's just focused on finding your brand voice. You have an agent that's just focused on ideation, an agent just focusing on taking those ideas and expanding it, an agent that actually writes the content.
When you say an agent, you mean like a GPT, like a custom GPT that I built?
Yeah. Or like if, for example, in Zapier, you have like a specific module just dedicated to that specific use case. And the prompting is just dedicated just such that when it gets this task, it fulfills that task to its ability with the desired output. Many times, like when people dive into this, they tend to forget that like one workflow, like what we think of, like when we're typing into ChatGPT, there's actually a bunch of things going on in the background. Is like, because the whole point of LLMs is predicting what the next thing will be, right? So the way they take, for example, write me something about this. It's probably taking that input and really taking 50 inputs and the probability of which one they're looking for to ultimately get the output. Whereas if you give it a structure of this is exactly what I want you to do, it knows how to output that such that you get a more desirable result.
So I have some of these GPTs over here that I've created. Okay. This GPT, for example, I'll load, it's called the Business Research Assistant. I'll put a transcript from an episode that I've recorded in, and it will spit out for me a summary of that business, but also with some insights of what the industry looks like, how somebody might get into this business, etc. I have, this one is the content strategist. So I've told it, hey, I'm going to take this transcript. I'm going to give you everything, give you the whole transcript, and then give me some ideas of what to post to Twitter, to LinkedIn, give me some thread ideas, give me some just short post ideas, etc. I have a prompt specific for quotes in the introduction of my podcast. So after, we record a podcast, I'll have it go through the transcript and find me quotes that will go at the very beginning of it. And then I have another GPT that tells me like, just give me an idea of what this business does, right? But I run those all separately. You can see I have separate GPTs, and like I copy and paste the transcript into separate GPTs. Are you saying I could set it up where I don't even need to do it separately? It would just, with a make automation, it could just run it for each one of those?
Yeah, like if there's OpenAI has this thing called the Assistance API, where you can build your, like what you have, like your custom GPTs, you can build your own assistants within your OpenAI that you can essentially API into and get these things such that they're in an automated flow. So for example, if you have like, let's take your Content Strategist Pro. Like for that to happen, you have one for hooks, one for the body, past that, one for the, the CTAs based on like what sort of CTAs you're looking for. And finally, like something to edit that.
This is my folder for content creations. It's like, that's what takes the episode and tells me what content I can create around it. This is the project folder that I have for intros, right? So this is what gives me the quotes. And then obviously I use these GPTs for other things. So how would I set it up? Where would I go? How would I actually create this? I'd come up here to.
So the first thing would be to like if you go to, I'll send you a link in the chat. So this is attached to your OpenAI account. You have to load credits into your OpenAI account.
Oh, it doesn't just go.
This is connecting. Yeah, this is connecting directly to the server because you're kind of borrowing their infrastructure to build this out, so you can API into it.
Will it charge me every time I run it from now on?
No, like it's the way it runs. It's on a credit system. So like it's on a per call basis. Yeah. So yes. I had to speak that out to really come to terms with it. So this is how like you can use it with make automations.
How much money should I put in? I have no idea.
I've loaded $10.
$10?
And it's lasted me since October. So I think you're fine.
Okay, cool.
Let's create that content creation one. So if we go back to the custom GPT screen you had on ChatGPT.
All right.
So we go to the content strategist. This is a GPT you made, right?
Yes.
So what we can do is if you hit the edit button, edit GPT, we're just going to copy paste the prompt that you used.
Okay. How do I do that?
I think as if you go to configure,
These are the
so
instructions.
all of this, these are instructions. That's the prompt. So we're just going to copy
Yeah.
paste that into our assistant.
Okay. In the system instructions, that's what I'm pasting into the assistant. I'm just pasting it in here.
Yep.
Okay.
Right? Yep. That's perfect for now.
Okay.
So if you click, I think this is also important, but if you look at the tools available, this is really cool stuff. But basically, like, if, for example, if you're getting a little more techie, like the purpose of AI agent is you can load it with different tools such that it can perform it function better. So let's say like you need to do calculations, like you're
Okay.
dealing with Excel files. Like you can load it with a calculator such that it's more empowered to do those calculations better. And A10 does a really good job of this, like they built out like a calculator tool. They have a calendar tool to like make dates easier. So like, these are all different parameters to like help with the output to limit like hallucinations. So basically with AI, it's all about, you're giving it creative ability to come up with decisions. So what this does is like you are able to limit the creativity. So like off the top of my head, like typically these are like default values, but like temperature, it's a function of how diverse and creative you want your answer to be. So if it's like 1 based on the input, it could really stray away from like what it thinks it's a good answer. Whereas if it's lower, it'll try to stick to script. So typically a good amount to be at is like around 1. Like anything less than 1, you're kind of making it a little too rigid, and anything above, you're giving it a little too much creative freedom.
How big is this content window and the system instructions? Like, could I put a lot more in here?
Yeah, so that you could, maybe.
I could. Okay.
What if you press? Yeah, so the whole point is like you tinker around with the prompt until you get like the desired output you would like.
You have this thing.
I think it's just a way to adjust the prompting.
So do I hit
So like
clone?
rather
Is that
than
what I
you
do?
having,
Or what do I do now?
or actually, I think you just save it. I think it's just auto saved. So let's do a test run. So where it says enter your message,
Okay. What do
let's
I do
just
here?
say
Do I put a prompt? Do I
let's
put
just
a
say
transcript in here?
yeah. Well, let's just put a sample transcript in there. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go to, this is the whole transcript. Too large.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, so the context. Where did you say the too large?
Run failed. Request too large for GPT-4o in organization.
Oh, I was saying like there's the input tokens were too high. Whatever prompt you have in your custom GPT, just use that in like a make. Do you have make?
I've never used it before.
Just send me over that prompt you have. Just you can send it in the chat. I'll share my screen. So what I'm doing here is like this is the make interface. So what it does is it makes it super easy to create these scenarios, and it's trigger based. So trigger based means like it's based off of the start of something. So for now, I'm just gonna load the OpenAI. So you just go choose a module, OpenAI, like ChatGPT Whisper, and for this case, what we'll do is we'll just say create a completion. So that's kind of what so every time we interface with OpenAI, like on ChatGPT, this is the endpoint we're hitting. It determines which endpoint to hit. So sometimes if you post up an image, it'll ask to analyze the vision. So what we'll do is we'll just do this one. I already have a key loaded in, but I'll just say GPT-4o, say user. So these are different user roles. Like if you look at the documentation, it does a really good job of explaining the two. Like I wouldn't be able to explain it to you as well as the documentation. But basically what, so these are like the different, how you're supposed to interact with the AI.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you very much.